Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are looking at the namesake of the next major update now. This is the Alpha Jet, and it's on the dev server for update Alpha Strike. And it's quite funny, because usually when you have a namesake for an update, the namesake is usually pretty good. But right now, on the dev server, we're looking at both Alpha Jets, one which is in the French tech tree, and one which is in the German tech tree. They both look pretty bad, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on. We'll have a look at both of them in this video. Basically, you have the Alpha Jet A here for Germany, and then for France, you have the Alpha Jet E, and the major difference is the secondary armaments, and I believe the engines on them are also maybe different, but it also might be just the fact that they are not labeled yet. Right now, they are at least the same. So the major difference is the secondary ordnance. You can see here with the Alpha Jet E for France, it has access to SNEB rockets, and then also incendiaries, 500 pounds and 250 kilo bombs, and then of course drop tanks. If you have a look at the German one, you have access to the same type of bombs, the 250s, 500 pounders, then incendiaries, and then you actually have Mighty Mouse rockets instead of the SNEBs. That seems to be the big difference between them. That's literally it. So what we'll do is we'll just put them both into this video and also make it understood. I'm pretty sure these vehicles aren't finished, because if they come out in this current form, they're kind of useless. So we'll see what goes on at the end of the day. So the Alpha Jet A for Germany, it's rank 6, battle rating 9.0. And you'll find it between the G91R3 and also the Tornado IDS AAST-A1. For the French one, the place where you'll find it is between the F86K Saberdog and also the FAE. So if you want the Crusader, then it might be worth going for. Right now, what is also kind of showing that the Alpha Jets are kind of wrong is the French one does not have access to a 30mm Defa. It still has the 27mm Mauser, BK-27. So they don't have countermeasures, they don't have a lot of ordnance. The French one seems to have the wrong gun. You can see that there is a lot of issues with these general things. So you have the two engines giving some thrust, not a ton, but enough. You have the rest of the vehicle made out of fuel, and then you have two pilots, since this is technically a training aircraft slash a light fighter. So with the pilots, they have cannon CCIP, rocket CCIP, and bomb CCIP, and also CCRP, which is quite good. So at least there's that to look forward to. Quite a nice little thing there. Also, on top of it, you have the 27mm Mauser, which has a really thick end on it, which I don't really remember from the Mausers, but maybe this is something that has existed before and I just haven't seen it before. But yeah, the Mauser has a thick boy nose on it, and also goes all the way in. It has 150 rounds, so not a ton, but enough to be able to kind of do a little bit of damage. So these things are supposed to be kind of ground attack things, so the ground attack part of it is pretty important. And what they have is, first of all, drop tanks. The Mauser as a second, as a primary, that's kind of sat there. You can technically not bring the Mauser if you want to. If you really want to be somebody which doesn't bring the main gun, you can just, drop it if you're worried about the weight or something like that. I don't even know what that situation would be, but you can see here it's still there modeled, but technically it doesn't exist for the vehicle. So yeah, obviously it's not finished. You do get the incendiary bombs, so they're probably going to be the best for hitting bases, if there are any bases left by the time you get to them, and also the rockets too. So it gives you a little bit of leeway to move yourself around the sky. Right now, there isn't any extra camos, there isn't any extra, decals, insignias, there aren't any extra armaments, there's pretty much nothing, which is pretty nuts. But at the same time, it's going to be hard to balance this thing, right? Because the Alpha Jet's one of those vehicles that, by the way, has a beautiful cockpit, so that is a big plus for it as we go into it. But the Alpha Jet is one of those things that is going to have problems balancing, because it is a vehicle that doesn't have a great sense of kind of power behind the engines, but does have quite a lot of a loadout. And so what they've done, I think, right now is they've kind of reduced the loadout part just to see if it can sort itself out with the general engines, and then maybe they'll add some stuff as they go along. Usually what they do in these scenarios is they add way too many armaments to these things and make them pretty much dead on arrival. But with this one, it isn't really the case. Right now it still has a use, even if it's minor. It can still be able to do quite a lot of damage with its CCIP at moderate speeds. It just won't be able to dogfight really, and it won't really be able to do a lot of other stuff. But in terms of taking out AAs and moving around the place, it'll be able to do that, which would be nice. You know, taking out stuff like shulkers and also other machines. And at mid speeds, it is pretty maneuverable. It does roll very well, which is, you know, a good credit to it. But also at the same time, once you get to like lower speeds, around 400 or below, it is really, really slow to hunker around. And that is a bit of an issue for it, right? But as people have found in stuff like the Strike Master, as people have found in stuff like the AMX, you can make these little vehicles work. You just have to keep up their speed, and you just have to be able to move around the place at a decent click, and then from there you're able to do quite a lot. And from 600 to about 1,000, this thing maneuvers pretty well. It's just when you get below them, it has a bit of a problem. And yeah, just no countermeasures or no additional stuff, which, well, pretty much worries me. I'm hoping that this vehicle maybe drops in BR a little bit. When I compare it to something like the Saab 105, for example, this vehicle is in a pretty rough place. If I compare it to something like the G91R3, where the R3 obviously has access to quite a few nice bells and whistles in the form of the Nords, and also the premium one having access to AIM-9Bs, it doesn't make me feel really good about this vehicle. It kind of makes me feel like it's in a bit of a rough place compared to. So it isn't exactly wonderful. It does have an air brake on it, so, you know, at least there's that. You can technically turn fight with it, but as we talked about, the lower speed that you go, it gets really, really unmaneuverable. So that is a problem. This vehicle will definitely benefit from the ideas that they're bringing in, where they're going to have, these vehicles are going to have different BRs in ground forces and air forces, because in air forces this thing is going to get mullered, but in ground forces it at least has a bit of a role, which is what you want from a machine, right? You don't want it to be completely useless, you don't want it to just be destroyed and nobody to have fun with it. You want something to happen with it. You don't want it just to be sat there, you know, wondering about its existence, especially since it is a jet which is a mainstay of the update, and also one which should get spread around so many different tech trees, because the Alpha Jet was one of those which was used by a ton of different countries in a ton of different settings with some really cool camos and also really cool setups. So hopefully this thing can find its place. Right now it doesn't have one, but I'm sure in the future it'll find one. As always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.